Alright, what's up you guys? In today's video is beyond Looksmaxxing, why looks aren't enough. So what is Looksmaxxing? Looksmaxxing it's pretty much just optimizing your looks through any means necessary. So there's hard maxing, which is optimizing your looks through surgical methods and anabolic steroids. And then there's soft maxing, which is optimizing your physical appearance through any means that aren't surgical or anabolic steroids. Okay, so just normal stuff like losing weight, gaining muscle, finding an optimal haircut, skincare, grooming, etc., etc. Now, the problem with looks maxing is that the guys who are obsessed with looks maxing are obsessed with looks maxing because they have no attention. They have no attention from women. They get no attention from women, and they want to get attention from women, and because they're really inexperienced and they're not particularly smart, because what they don't realize is that looks aren't actually that important. All looks do is get your foot in the door, but these guys literally have no experience with women, and so what they think is that if you're good looking, you'll start to get lots of women, but that couldn't be further from the truth. But the guys on, you know, streams, like streamers, people in on forums, especially looksmax.org, those guys are psychotic. They'll tell you that looks are super important and looks are all that matter, but these guys very clearly have zero experience. They're also extremely young, so that would um, validate my claim. But anyways, essentially what you have is you have guys who weren't attractive eventually become attractive. Now, most of the people who are on the forums or whatever, or on the websites, um, they don't actually put in the work to become better looking. But the ones who do, um, they obviously weren't attractive before, and they become attractive eventually. They're conventionally attractive, right? Conventionally and objectively attractive. Now, the problem is most of these guys who weren't attractive and become attractive are awkward and have terrible social skills. Now, why is that? There's a lot of reasons as to the why. There's tons of reasons as to why kids are awkward and have terrible social skills these days, particularly men. There's tons of reasons, but I'm not really concerned with the why. I'm concerned with the what. And the observation I've made is that most of the guys who are in looks maxing have terrible social skills and are just weird. That's period, point blank. You most likely are. And if you have an anime avatar, you're already a weirdo. No offense, but it's true. It's an observation I've made. All right. And so, what they don't realize, or was that guy, or what the guys who are eventually become good looking realize, is that looks get their foot in the door, but their odd behavior and poor social skills make them sexual rejects. Okay, so essentially what happens is these guys who do become eventually attractive, they do become objectively good looking. They start to get positive attention and positive reception from women for the first time in their life. But what they don't realize is that their behavior and social skills and their ability to flirt and communicate with women is so bad that they're still sexual rejects. So women still aren't interested in them because they're effectively weirdos, right? They're good looking, and so when people see good looking people, they assume a couple of things. They make a lot of positive assumptions, right? They assume that they're normal above all. First and foremost, they assume that they're normal. They assume that they're not weirdos. They assume most people assume good looking, have good social skills, are charismatic, are likable, have lots of friends, um, defer to them in conversation, because they're good looking. But the problem is, these people are extremely strange because while they're good looking and people make all these positive judgments, they're still weirdos, right? And so people think that something is wrong with them because their odd behavior slash poor social skills. So when someone sees a good looking guy, they make all these positive assumptions about them, which is objectively true. But when they realize that you're just a weirdo with poor social skills and you behave like very oddly, I'll think something is wrong with you, right? Because good looking people aren't supposed to be socially inept. So effectively, you have good looking people who are socially inept, and there's an incongruence in behavior and appearance because most good looking people are people who have been good looking their entire lives, who have had positive reception, not just from women, but from people in general their entire lives, people who have been deferred to in conversation their entire lives. And so people will think something's wrong with you because you're not behaving like a good person should. Now, this doesn't just apply to women; it applies everywhere, right? Like applying for jobs, just interacting with normal people in the real world, people will think something is wrong with you, which is what a lot of these Looksmaxxers don't realize. And a lot of you guys, I get tons of comments from people who say, "Oh, well, so I speak poorly. Well, I don't speak poorly. I make observations about streamers, particularly clavicular, androgenic, nocturnal Kent, and other Looksmaxxing YouTubers. And pretty much, I observe that while they are pretty handsome, objectively and conventionally, a lot better looking than average, I'd argue, that they're still socially strange, and that's why they don't get girls, and that's why women aren't positive their advances. And any normal person, okay, not you weirdos commenting on my videos for anime avatars, but any normal person can clearly observe that these Looksmaxxers, despite being very good looking, have terrible social skills and are very bad with women. And no, these guys don't get women. I'm not saying they never sleep with women, but no, they don't get women. They don't receive positive reception from women. Just because they get a couple of women to come to their house doesn't mean anything. Just because they can talk to promoters and get promoters to come, um, and just because they talk to promoters and have promoters help them get women into their sections at nightclub or come out and go on yachts with them, that doesn't mean anything. Okay, if you just watch their interactions and how they communicate with women, that they're strange and very weird. And even oftentimes you'll have women literally comment and say that you're weird and very strange. And if a woman calls you weird, you most likely are weird. Now, a lot of people comment also and say, well, they're playing it up for the stream. No, this is just how, even when watching these Looksmaxxing streamers interact with normal men, they have terrible social skills. Even when they interact with normal men, they're just strange and weird because they never learned how to properly communicate with people. And again, the why for that, the why could be there's an infinite number of reasons as to why people have terrible social skills, and as to why people are having, men specifically, are having worse and worse social skills um, in this generation. But I even think of Victor. I watched a video on him. He would go on looksmax.org and talk about how he would hate, how he wanted to, interact with as few people as possible in his teenage years, and that obviously is going to contribute to poor social skills. And so, pretty much, what I'm trying to convey is that if you don't realize that, like, your biggest that the Looksmaxers you aspire to be like have poor social skills and are very strange, that means you too have poor social skills and are very strange. I assure you, they're not playing it up for the camera, okay? And any normal person, okay, can clearly see that. All right. So that's why looks aren't enough. You also have to be normal. Okay. So my advice to all of you guys who are into Looksmaxxing, who want to have more positive experiences in life, and obviously you want to have more positive experiences with women, learn how to be normal. Okay. Learn how to be normal. Don't learn how to be some alpha macho man. Don't learn how to spit really smooth and clean game. Just learn how to be normal. That's what you need to do. Take it one step at a time. You're weird. You're socially inept. Learn how to be normal. Observe and learn how people normally interact with each other. Learn how to not say outlandish and inappropriate stuff that'll make people never want to speak to you again. Learn how to be normal. That is my advice for you. And that is why looks aren't enough. If you're interested, I offer one-on-one coaching, how to bodybuild, how to become shredded, how to become a hybrid. Links in the bio. And if y'all enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next one.